So in this video, I want to talk about the second crisis survival skill on this week's DBT blog, which is TIPP. And TIPP is another acronym. So each letter stands for its own different thing. But TIPP is really based on understanding these underlying physiological mechanisms that underlie our stress response, and which is activated in times of intense distress that we're trying to tolerate. And so TIPP basically is like different things that you can biohack, so to speak, when you are feeling really stressed and your stress system is activated. These are different things that you can do to downregulate that stress system and activate your calming system, which I go into a lot more depth on in terms of the stress response and the different physiological mechanisms underlying that on the blog. But for simplicity's sake, let's focus on the skill itself. So what are some things that you can do to downregulate your stress response? The first letter is T, and it stands for temperature, and temperature being cold temperature. And so cold temperature has a calming effect. And there are biological mechanisms underlying this. But what's important is that you get yourself in a cold body of water. Maybe you take a cold shower, or the effects won't be as potent, but you can splash cold water on your face, and that can even be enough sometimes. I is for intense exercise. So same thing. If you can get your heart beating, and then whether that's a run around the block or a couple sprints, ideally it's at least 20 minutes to really downregulate that stress response. But whatever's feasible in the moment will help. And so whatever you can do, how can you get your heartbeat pumping? And therefore, when you stop doing that exercise, then all of a sudden your body's going to downregulate. The first P, there are two P's in TIPP, but the first P stands for progressive muscle relaxation. And there is a link in the blog that will lead you to a guided script for this. But really the gist of it is that you're going to go through all of your different muscles. So maybe you start with your hands and you tense them intentionally, just like for about 10 seconds. You just squeeze as hard as you can. And then after, however many seconds, 10 seconds, I don't know how many they have you do, you intentionally relax. And you do that for all of your different muscles in your body. And that, like temperature and intense exercise, has a calming effect, and it serves to downregulate that stress response. And the second P is paced breathing, which again, like the other ones, serves to downregulate our stress response. And so the really important thing with paced breathing is that you exaggerate your exhale. So we want to inhale for 4-ish seconds, so still like a long inhale, but then on the out breath, this is the really important part in terms of just the different underlying physiological mechanisms, that we exhale for even longer than we inhale. So like 6 to 9 seconds is the goal. And so you're just breathing in and then exhaling as slow and deep as you can. And that is going to be tapping into different physiological mechanisms that help to downregulate the stress response. So TIPP can be really helpful in times when our stress response is activated, and when that's happening and our emotions are so high, sometimes it can be impossible to access the wise mind that we need to be able to make an effective decision or respond intentionally. And so in those moments when you can't think clearly because your emotions are so high and have just kind of hijacked your brain in that moment, TIPP can be a really helpful skill to calm the body down physiologically, so that there is more space to access wise mind and respond very intentionally versus reactively to whatever crisis or intense distress you're experiencing.